Any regular viewer's going to know exactly what I'm up to this time. And I've just spotted a big fat grey seal out in the bay. It's time to see if I can cut my teeth as a wildlife photographer, because every previous attempt has been absolutely rubbish. Hello, and thanks for joining me for another outing. Today I'm wild camping on the coast at the very northern tip of Anglesey. So let me just show you around where I'm going to be camping. I'm in a little cove called Porth Llanlleiana, which is about 1.5 kilometres from where I've parked the car, just down the coastal path at the church at Llanbadrig. There isn't really anywhere nearer to park, but it's a very nice walk along the cliff tops. So we've got this rather pleasant beach, and as you can see, a fair bit of detail in the sky. Now the sun is going to swing round and pretty much set straight out from the beach. So and it's the only time of year when it does that here. So that was a particular reason for coming here now. So I'll be taking some shots from the beach later on. And we've also got some industrial heritage, and I'm hopeful that when the sun gets down below that bank of cloud in about an hour or so, this might light up quite nicely. Now this was a porcelain works, and it flourished until about 1920, when it was very badly fire damaged, and it never reopened sadly after that. Now I'm sure not one of you will have heard of Anglesey porcelain, so obviously it wasn't a huge industry. I'm thinking I'll pitch my tent just about here because it's a lovely spot right on the beach, and I don't need to be out of the wind because there's only a gentle breeze this evening, so I'm sure it'll be fine. Well, I've got my camp all set up, so time for some photography. Well, I've walked around this building 3 or 4 times, and I can't find a single thing about it that remotely interests me in terms of an image. As industrial heritage goes, you can see why nobody ever visits. But I've got some decent light going on at the moment. There's still about an hour and a half till sunset, but it won't be long before this is in shadow, so I'm going to do anything it needs to be now. To be honest, the most interesting thing about this image is the sheep in the frame. I'll work it a bit more, see if I can come up with something, but so far every composition, it's just not working for me. But we'll see. I've been down and had a walk on the beach. I had another stab at shooting that seal in the nicest possible way. That was a fail. So on the plus side, this is an absolutely exquisite location for wild camping. I've got the place to myself, completely hidden away. My tent is pitched right on the beach. It's brilliant. All I need now is some photography. Well, considering this is an extremely remote spot, I'm loving the solitude. There's this really handy picnic bench. Didn't expect this. You don't get this sort of luxury up in Snowdonia. It does make life rather easy. So Time to organise a cup of tea and then think about some photography on the beach, because it can't be any worse than that bloody porcelain works. I was really struggling, and I don't normally come away with nothing at all, but there we are. Okay, so I'm down on the beach and it's the probably the last 10-15 minutes before sunset. Just playing around with various compositions. I've got this one here which I'm shooting at f11 and taking 3 focus stack points. Is this view across to the headland, because I really like the way there's that huge triangular shape that just comes straight out the sea, and some lovely colours along the tide line which are being nicely lit up now. The sunset isn't likely to be particularly spectacular because there's next to no cloud, but what it is doing is throwing some lovely light on this foreground. Let me show you what I mean. There are these layers of wrack which are all facing back up the beach where they've been thrown up by the tide, and each leading edge is catching some beautiful orange light. And so that's what's really interesting to me in this composition, is the way the light is bouncing up off those rocks and all that seaweed. I'm not using a polarizing filter because I don't want to lose the sheen on the rocks or on the seaweed. That's what I'm actually shooting. Now I won't be able to get any more shots of this seaweed because it's now pretty much lost the light that attracted me in the first place. And now what I can do is just see what happens over there with the sunset and the reflections on the water. Just gone for a final sunset shot just as the sun's hitting the horizon in portrait, and what I've done is I've just balanced it alongside the little island out there. That's Llanbadrig, also known as Middle Mouse. I've got some of these really nice cobblestones on the beach in the foreground. I don't know what's going to happen in the morning. The weather says it's going to be fine and clear, so I am going to get up early and see what happens at sunrise. And on that basis, I think I'm going to clock out for tonight, so let's see what happens in the morning. Good morning. I slept like a log and I've been up exactly 5 minutes because I woke up to the most amazing textures in the sky. I had to grab my camera really quickly before it went. Let me show you. The textures of those clouds are absolutely fabulous, and you just know they're going to be gone in 10-15 minutes, so I really had to get on the case. I think this will probably be the last shot from here before I head off back down towards Llanbadrig. What I wanted to do was to try and get both sides of the bay into a single shot. Those rocks down the left-hand side have got some lovely colours on them, and there's also still a bit of that texture left in the sky. And this one I have put the 10 stop on, so it's a 30-second exposure. So I've walked all the way back, picked the car up and driven down to the beach at Cemaes I. It's about 8:30 in the morning. Got the place to myself, which is great because this beach will be quite busy later on. I took a few handhelds on the walk back, so I'll put those up. Nothing spectacular, but it's a very enjoyable walk and I totally recommend it. As I said, you park up at Llanbadrig and then just follow the coast path up to Porth Llanlleiana. Cemaes Bay, the tide's in, which is good because otherwise the boats in the harbour will be sitting on the mud. Lovely little bay. The locals claim that it's the most northerly village in Wales. I'm sure the people of Llanbadrig might have something to say about that, but Cemaes is a proper village. At the moment I'm just taking a shot of the tide bell, and if you don't know what that is, let me show you. It was an art project from a few years ago. I think there are 8 of them in total dotted around the UK on various beaches, and essentially it's an upside down bell that when the tide comes in moves the pole at the bottom and rings the bell. Just finishing up with a couple of shots of the harbour wall and the boats just inside the harbour. It's a lovely scene, and the light is absolutely perfect because there's quite bright sun, but there's a really high cloud, so it's softening it down beautifully. I've still got plenty of contrast in the scene, but I've no harsh shadows or highlights, so it's just the right amount of contrast. Let me show you this last composition that I'm working on. So what I've done is I've got the camera set up in portrait mode, and I'm shooting following this line of rock in the foreground with lots of detail of the seaweed and loads of texture. It's really nice. What I've been doing with that shot is shooting at f11. I'm shooting manually because I want to control the exposure. What I'm doing is I'm slightly overexposing this foreground, not clipping it obviously, but that gives me the greatest amount of detail to work with in post. I've taken 4 focus points because I'm only shooting at f11, and the final shot, which is pretty much the sky and the far background where it's the brightest, what I've done with that is I've just dialed that down to make sure that nothing clips, and I'm pretty happy with that, and I'm hopeful that'll make a decent picture. Well, I think that's about it for another outing. I really love wild camping on the coast, so it's time to get home, get these on the computer, beg the lovely Mrs. G for a fabulous fry-up. Thank you all for joining me again. I really appreciate your encouragement and support, and if you haven't subscribed yet, why not do it now and join me next time. Cheers.